Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Susan Lopresti Wellness, Mind, Body, and Soul, podcast where we explore the highs, the lows, and everything in between when it comes to a woman's life, her health, and all aspects of navigating the midlife landscape. I'm your host, Susan Lopresti, and today I have a very special guest with me. I have Misha Frankel. We met on Facebook. We became friends, and I was very, very intrigued by the work that she was doing. And I listened to a couple of episodes of her podcast, and I just knew that I had to have Misha come on to my podcast to talk to my listeners. So let me give you a little bit of information about Misha, and then I'll introduce you to her. She was born in South Africa, married, then came to Sydney in 1967. She worked a variety of corporate organizations from secretarial to management. Children came along, and then she started looking for answers to some of life's biggest questions. Her spiritual journey began to take root. Energetic healing, esoteric studies on the tree of life, and finally, a qualification in reflexology opened the door to a new way of seeing life. Time for a career change to complementary therapies in 2005. She left the corporate system. Connecting Energies was born, and she started practicing as a professional reflexologist. Life has become more interesting and rewarding. Understanding came from conscious reality, and she was always open to expand awareness and share knowledge. Spirituality, flexibility, and being true to herself are very important in living a fulfilled life. This requires maintaining a regular discipline of meditation, focusing on expanding consciousness and also spiritual growth. Misha's mission is to see the human body in its totality, that which is seen and felt, as well as that which is not seen but felt. Emotional and mental blocks impact on the physical body, cause discomfort, and possibly disease. So it's important to acknowledge and release this inner tension. Doing this in a non-confrontational environment provides support and also calms the nervous system. Her vision is to be open to changes as they present themselves. Circumstances adjust over time. It's important to be flexible and not have a fixed mindset. Curiosity and courage go hand in hand with seeking the truth through change. Recognizing the power of our own inner knowing is the way forward. She wrote her first book, The Gateway to the Soul, in 2022, and she's soon to come out with her next book, which she will talk to you about in detail. So without further ado, Misha, welcome to my podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Susan, it is my delight, but you've left me nothing to say. You said it all.
No, I think we have plenty to say.
There's always more.
Yes.
And I think this is the one concept in life that I've really come to understand, that there is always more. There's always more to our growth, to our expansion, to the being that we really are. And this is my journey forward. This is where I'm going.
I love it. Misha, at what point in your life did you start to realize that there was something more? You know, like you had these rumblings, you had these inner feelings. At what point in life did you start noticing that? And was there anything that was going on in your life that may have triggered this to surface at this point?
Actually, this goes back to the 1980s. We'd moved from Sydney to Brisbane. We'd been there for 3.5 years. And then my husband at the time decided to come back to Sydney. It was round about then when I started, there's more to life than this. I had quite a few health issues at the time, back problems, This is a funny one I'll share with you. We were coming back to Sydney. The family came by car. I came by plane with more than 20 guinea pigs, because the 2 guinea pigs that we had decided to have babies, and I could not sit for that period in a car. So I came by plane. So it was round about that time, which is the late 80s, that I started There's More to Life. I then started a new job. I'd been there for a couple of years, and the CEO at the time gave me a book to read. It had been on his desk for ages, and then he passed it on to me and said, I think you'll like it. The title, of course, The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Jeff Walker. And when I read that, I thought, gosh, somebody else is asking those questions too. And that then gave me permission on an inner level to look further. I looked at the power of the mind, started reading different books. Then a few years later, I started having strange dreams. And these I discovered afterwards were really like mystical experiences, because they took me to another world, another time in this world. In other words, I was going through spontaneous past life recall. So nobody was talking me through anything. I was just in certain places, certain times, recognizing, oh, that situation applies to me now. Oh, is that what that means? And once I had these inner realizations, I was getting to a point of balance. In other words, karma. I didn't even know what the word meant in the early 90s. But I was experiencing it through lived experiences. And Susan, that was really the major start of my journey.
When you started to question these different aspects of life and you began getting answers, they were being channeled through you. What was that like? Did it frighten you, or did it make you feel comfortable? What was that experience like for you?
Well, let me clarify. I don't ever hear voices in my head. It is like a knowing. And when this first started, it was, like you're thinking. And I was thinking a question. Suddenly the answer was there. Well, where'd that come from? Oh, that's good. And then at one stage, I was by then working for the Geological Society at a conference. And I had a bookstall and people were running around. And I had my little notebook and I wrote on the top, is activity a controlling power? Well, I just started writing. Oh, that's weird. And in the process, it was like I was answering my own question. And I opened that book this morning thinking, well, if you ask me this question, I'm going to read this. Because it was like going back to school to relearn the basics of life's lessons. However, in this case, the lessons are internal, very private, and self-fulfilling, because their impact is of a deeper nature and has a greater effect in life's direction. And that's what was happening to me from then on. I was having these deep inner conversations and I started writing them down. So between this, no, I wasn't frightened, by the way. There was no fear because it was all internal. Couldn't talk about it to anybody. They'd think I'm crazy. So I was writing. So I had dozens and dozens of notebooks, which I kept every year, like we have a diary.
Yeah.
And I just recorded these experiences I had in Atlantis and Egypt. And oh my God, that explains what's happening to me now. So these experiences developed over a period of time. And I respect, revere, and feel actually humbled by the depth in which they grew from the early 1990s to now, 30 years later. It's been a progression of understanding, of gaining wisdom from that which I'm learning, that which I'm experiencing, and that which is developing. I don't know if that answers your question. There was no
Yes.
fear.
So these answers that were coming to you, were they your higher consciousness?
Oh, in the end, yes. I knew that was my higher self.
Yes.
They never ever came from an I point of view. They always came from a we. It's because the soul is limitless. The soul is never ending. We, as humans, reincarnate, the reincarnating ego all the time. But the soul is continuous. So that's where all our memories are. And I recognize very soon, as a result of all my spiritual training, that I was communicating with my higher self. There was no external guide or channeled entity. It was within my own inner being.
Now, do you attribute that to when you started meditating, that you were able to tap into that?
100% correct.
Yes.
It was through meditation that I started traveling other worlds, to other times, other spaces. I would go into I had no one at that stage guiding me. I would make up my own method of breathing, of focusing, and of using silence to go within the body. There was never any music in the background or anything. It was through, in a sense, like I was listening to my heart beating. And then there was just a nothingness, but everything. And this is the way I started, through deep meditation. And meditation has followed me throughout my life for the last 30 plus years, because it is who we are. When we go into a meditative state, we become more whole, if I can use that word.
Yes.
And my focus is becoming whole, recognizing the oneness of everything, both tangible and intangible. We are both.
That's incredible. I love that. I love that. What prompted you to start writing this down, all these messages that you were getting, just so that you could retain this information, or did you want to share it, or was it just for your personal information and knowledge?
Oh, Susan, it was definitely personal. I had never intention of publishing. I used to do shorthand work, you see. And so I have lots of shorthand notebooks. And now if I look back at my shorthand, I think, gosh, what did I say there? It was, nobody else could have read what I'd written at one stage. Yes, if I went to spiritual retreats, which I did every year for 3-week retreats. And then there was ongoing workshops every fortnight. I always wrote notes at the retreat. The teacher is giving you a teaching. And even though you receive the transliteration afterwards, I always wrote my own notes. So I always had a notebook, and every year there was a new notebook. So that is why when I eventually wrote my first book, it was my journey of the previous 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was doing. I went back to my books, and I know you're going to ask me this question, so I'll preempt this. The first book was entitled Gateway to the Soul. And most of that book was transcribed from my notes, direct. And when I actually joined a writers group and they asked, you share what you've written. Oh, no, you've got to tell them a little bit more, add a little bit more emotion into it. And I said, hang on one moment. That is real. That's how it was. I had no way, no intention of padding it with the unreal. And actually, in reading back to myself, the beginning and the ending, you think it was written by two different people. No, it's a progression of me. So it's showing you how I progressed from the beginning to where I am now. I was in 2022. And this is the way I believe life is real. I believe now in seeing reality as it is, not how I was brought up to see it. That is the sum of our conditioning.
Yeah.
And
I was about to say we're conditioned. Yes.
I wasn't to my conditioning.
Right.
But Susan, it takes us such a long time to overcome all those messages that have been put in us from way back. Even our own messages of I'm not good enough, I don't have enough education. All these inner messages where you hear somebody say something. Oh, she's just a girl. She doesn't need higher education. Take her out of school early. All these things. And then you feel less than. I felt less than.
Yeah.
Too many years.
I think a lot of us have gone through that experience of feeling less than and feeling limited. Yes. And unfortunately, our parents weren't, well, I'll speak about my parents. They didn't see the big picture like that. Everything was very black and white to them. The way it was is the way it's supposed to be. And so that makes a big difference when you don't have someone who could guide you and say, yes, you should feel that you're capable of anything that you want to accomplish. I know that we were always held back as children. My brother and I'll speak for myself. So, yeah. And they didn't have that higher consciousness back then, I don't think.
No, that's, I will, you know what this means?
Closed doors. Is that what?
Close.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I was born literally just after the Second World War. I will share now, 1944, which is a little close back, and that ages me. So that is something which I think is really important for people to know, that age is not important. It's who you are inside and overcoming those limitations, overcoming those old belief patterns that have been instilled in us. That is the thing that you have to do. And this is what I found was so important. And that's why in my first book, I did highlight the conditioning, belief systems, the denials, the judgments we grew up with, which ended up as habits. And we don't realize those habits. It's something that we actually have overcome because they're just continuing. And we deny them. By denying them, we're actually enforcing them. So it's these lessons that were really lessons that I had to earn the right to learn. Oh, I've never thought of it that way. I had to earn the right to learn. Yes, that's exactly right. And that's what I was hoping to bring through the first time around in the first book. It is a workbook. Each chapter, at the end of a chapter, has got a summary. And then it's got practices, questions for you to answer. And if it's gone through in the right way, it involves progress. From that first book, I ran 2 courses. One was Seeking the Truth Through Change, because that's the crux of it. What is the truth? We have to change first before we can see the truth. We have to see the need for change. And then the second one was unlocking the power within ourselves. Because let's be honest, we all have potentials within us, which is waiting to come out of hiding. And I know I've still got lots and lots of unexplored issues, unexplored things that are waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Did I think I could write a book? No. Did I think I could write poetry? Oh, by the way, that was the first thing that woke up for me, was poetry.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. It was the weirdest thing. It was the Sunday morning way back in wherever, 1993 or 4. It was a Sunday morning. And I thought, I was hearing, you know how we talk to ourselves in our head.
Yes.
I was hearing these incredible words and quickly sat up, started writing. That was the beginning. Because thereafter, I would just see a situation in poetry form.
Mm.
You're sitting at a restaurant and all of a sudden I looked across and I see a child in a way and I just pick up the serviette that was the closest thing and I just wrote a little poem. Really? And that is the creativity waking up in us.
Yes. Your higher consciousness, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And when we allow that creativity to come out, then we start moving forward. Otherwise, we're stuck in sameness, a continuation of everything that was.
Right. Now, do you think, because I'm thinking about my own personal experience, I know that when I was in the process of getting divorced, you talked about poetry. I started writing little poems. I never read poetry before. And just, about my feelings, what I was going through. It actually made me feel good to express my feelings and write them down on paper. So was there a point in your life where you had like a transition or a transformation that may have also sparked some of this that started to come to the surface for you?
Absolutely. You see, with you, it was the divorce I'm going through. I was also going through wobbly marriage. And I found expressing in poetry form was a freedom.
Yeah,
I was being freed to express that which I wasn't able to express
right.
in the marriage. The fact that it was being expressed about nature, about things of it, whatever it was the freedom to express, Susan, which is something I now truly respect. Because until such time as we breathe in ourselves,
Mhm.
we can't speak truth. We're always speaking through a filter of truth. And this I respect more than anything else, through the understanding of the filter that exists between the tangible and the intangible. That which you see, feel, trust. As you see, you feel. This is our tangible, that which we can touch.
Mhm.
But how we see things, how we feel, and how we think, we can't touch that. That's the intangible aspect of our identity, of our ego. However, once we reach or go above personality into the soul, the soul is the lowest level of the spiritual world. It is intangible. It is limitless in its expansion. And for me, it's like climbing up a ladder. I've always used that analogy in my mind. You know the old snakes and ladders that we used to play as kids? Snakes and ladder. And every time I felt as if, oh, we shouldn't have done that, down the snake. And then I had to start climbing up the ladder again. So it was, like we developed an analogy within ourselves. That was my analogy, climbing up the ladder.
Mhm.
And whenever I felt, oh, now I understand that. And the realization came through, what did the understanding mean? It was like gaining another level. And then I started realizing what that was wisdom. Because the wisdom we gain is from a lived experience, true understanding what was, what now is, and taking off, covering from that and being free. That freedom is not one that we can often express towards everyone. You would understand when I say this. And sometimes with family who know you as you were,
Right.
very difficult to see you as something else.
Yes.
So you have continued to put the mask on. I'm slowly removing that mask. And that first book was a removal of the mask.
Does the removal of the mask for you feel uncomfortable, or are you comfortable showing your true authentic self to people who knew you prior to? And do they understand you?
yes and no. I have to say yes and no to that one, because in some instances, understanding who you are now is not easy for somebody to switch. But I am slowly coming out of hiding. And in this process, we tend to leave some people behind. It's not a loss, it's a gain. Because when we acknowledge things that are no longer pertinent for us or no longer meaningful in our lives, why hold on to them? It's like, the decluttering we go through in our house sometimes. You go through your wardrobe and you still new, but what one can I do? Give it to somebody who can use it. And this is what I find is so important in the mind, is decluttering. I don't have to think of all those things. I don't have to hold on to them all the time. Let them go. And I think the big word here is freedom, because the minute we start being free within ourselves, we then introduce love, because love is true freedom. When we can express ourselves freely, we are moving into the vibrational frequency of love. And I'm a very feeling person, working with my hands. I do reflexology, as you said earlier. Feeling energy as being clairsentience. I don't see things, feel. While the sensing and the hearing is coming slowly. I'm told, no, this time around I was supposed to feel my way through life. Thank you very much. But where was I going with this? Oh, love. Freedom and love. And what is coming through more than anything else is movement. The flow of the water.
Yes.
Flow through life as well. And if there's a big boulder in the way, we're just hitting that boulder, just like the river. And then eventually finds its way around the boulder.
Right.
Now, we can carry on doing this through all the boulders and taking forever to get anywhere. And this is what I found was so important in life. Face obstacles. Overcome. Don't have to flow over them. We just let the water flow through. And that's a concept which came through another dream, another mystical experience. And I formed it as part of my new book. And it is the water of life. Water of life is movement, is flowing. It's like thoughts come and go. So everything moves in life. Energy moves. Energy is a frequency. And you have to bring me back to topic every now and again, Susan, because I go.
No, but please go. You have my permission to go. I love listening to you.
Okay, so Gateway to the Soul, yes, 30 years. Then there was a gap of 2 years. I did 2 courses, and then happened in June this year. It's just a few months ago. You're going to write a book on it. The previous year, what came through very strongly was the words, the opening. And I thought, oh, I've got to open another book. I've got to open something. And I put it away back in my mind. And then just suddenly was the funniest thing that happened, actually, and I have to share this.
Please.
I was having renovations done to the house. Back deck was being removed. There was hammering, there was knocking, there was sawing, and the workman had a boom box going, the music.
Yes.
Right outside my study door. And I was sitting down at my computer here. You can see my door right back there. And suddenly I'm just typing. I started another book. I brought on board the courses that I had done. And then I thought, oh, that's it. That's the book. I even sent it off for review. There were too many things left out. The week before I was to celebrate my 80th birthday, I sat down and virtually revised the book. And what came through was the essence of me, if I can put it that way.
Yeah.
It was like a teaching more than anything else. So the next book takes things a little deeper. And it was at that point, a week before, I had a celebration in my house. I had everything going on. And here I am sitting. And then in the middle of the night, I get 5 statements. Now, I'm used to myself now. Usually I will sit up and write or have my little iPad, press record and talk. My eyes are closed. I am virtually communicating with my higher self here, with my soul. But this is beyond soul. I cannot share all 5 statements at this point.
Mhm.
I will share a few as in a short little paragraph. And I'm going to read this because I don't want to get this wrong. The opening represents the gateway between mankind's desire for dominance and that state of alignment where everything is in balance. The ego or shadow side takes a backward step, allowing the soul to guide humanity into the next revolution on the wheel of life. The sacred nature of being human blossoms and comes out of hiding. Now that virtually encompasses the first 3 statements that the next book, the opening, the sacred nature of being human is based on. We're looking at that which is tangible in life, that which we have control over, and recognize that control is like this tight fist until such time as we allow flexibility. Only then can we start flowing and moving. So it's that true understanding of that which leads us by the nose, the carrot, in order to see the real. The next 2 statements are basically beyond humanity's grasp. But we're allowed to see a little bit. I've done enough spiritual work to understand through lived experiences, through knowledge gained over the last, when did I start? 1995 to today. This is new. And that is great in a depth of spiritual work, both Eastern philosophies and Western philosophies, with the basics being on the ancient tree of life. So balance. And balance is the big thing in everything. And that's where I see my life going.
Tell me about the ancient tree of life.
That's the Kabbalistic tree of life. That is what people used to call, still do, the tarot, the arcana. They go back to, oh my God, when they first came out many hundreds of years ago, centuries, was in order to hide, if that's the right word, but at the time it was protect esoteric knowledge. Because we all know that knowledge can be corrupted as a result of the greed of humankind, of the need to want to have power to dominate. So a lot of that ancient knowledge was put into picture form, and that's what became the original tarot. And the tarot as such has been, I'm not using the word muddy because that is judgmental, has been adjusted and changed in such a way that it's lost its original essence. So there are a few avenues of going back to the original and having everything positive. And that's the course that I've been on all these years, is recognizing that the Kabbalah is teaching. It is not a religion. It has nothing to do with one religion or another, but its essence comes back to the language of fire, which is the Hebrew language. But it also recognizes the language of light, or of water, of everything else. And the language of it is the Sanskrit language. So the same philosophies are balanced from one teaching to another teaching. And the tree of life offers a way of walking, and this you will have heard many times, walk the middle path. The middle path is the recognition that the lower mind and higher mind, you have a love, but the other side of love is possibly being severe in order to come to the point of balance. And this is what I've always called the seesaw. The kids go on a seesaw. You have the heavier one down there, and the light one is sitting there. Can't come down. The need to get to a point of balance in life. And that has been a big teaching in my life, is seeing things from a wider perspective. Does that answer a little bit? I cannot go into greater depth of the tree of life here. It is not. People are interested in courses on the tree of life. Yes, please let me know, because I have run a few courses, and one of my colleagues is currently running a course, the full course of the verse 21, Volcanum on the Tree, goes for a year. In other words, it's not a book to read. It's a teaching. And it's something that you have to do to understand and to know. I can do that course 20 times, and every time I will find something different.
Wow, that's wonderful.
And that's a teaching.
Keep evolving into.
That is the word.
Yes.
Evolve.
Yeah.
And that is life. We need to learn to evolve. And when we can start evolving consciously, then we're creating. And it's this creation. It's like we're co-creating with the source. Because we then have, we're not controlling. We're creating.
Yeah.
We're using our imagination, we're using our creativity to see the bigger picture. And this is how you started. It's seeing a bigger picture in life. Not this little one who's always doing what she's supposed to do, because that's what she was told she had to do, and was her duty. No. Be free to create, to experience, and to do in the right way. And this is, I think, the way to live an authentic life, to be genuine, and to foster freedom from within yourself. So that you can recognize there's time for control, and there's a time for release. This for me is the letting go, the surrendering, and the being open to see more. Because there's always more to see.
Yeah.
There's always more to discover.
You mentioned, Misha, that you have some programs and workshops that.
Yes.
So tell us about that and how my audience could participate.
It makes me excited. These things for me just happen very quickly now. Very quickly. And the workshops came, I'm giving some free masterclasses, okay?
Oh, great.
So there'll be 2 free masterclasses. The first one, I've got to check out, the 16th of October, around the corner. It'll be 16th of October, 7 o'clock, Sydney time, Australian Eastern Standard Time. And that particular one will be looking at embracing our sacred contracts and discovering our hidden potentials. So it's looking at the sacred in life. What do we mean by sacred? And taking things a lot deeper on that level. Then a week later, on the 23rd of October, they both Wednesday night, my time. I understand on the other side of the world, it would be early hours in the morning.
Yes.
So a replay of everything will be available. So anybody wants to register. So number 2, we move on to the simple art of awakening the sacred in life. So in the first one, we go a little deeper into the understanding. And in the second one, it's the art of awakening. And then that leads on to the publishing of a book, which will be early November, the opening, The Sacred Nature of Being Human. And The Sacred Nature of Being Human will be available initially as an ebook, then a softcover, and then the audio. And in both my books, I do the audio because I feel it's the voice, the author, which is just as important.
Yes.
So,
And I could listen to you all day.
Oh, darling, when I did the first book at one stage, I got a bit emotional. And I even said, I think, and I thought, I'll cut that out. And I thought, no, it's the authentic me. I got emotional about my own work.
Yeah.
So, yes, so the 16th of October, the 23rd of October, and it'll be early November. I haven't yet set the exact date. I'm currently waiting for the cover design to come through. I've already submitted the book. It's gone through for formatting. I tell you, self-publishing a book is a huge task. But at this stage, if I went the traditional route, they would have said, oh, who is she? She's an 80-year-old. What does she know what to do? Give her the knitting needles. So I wasn't prepared to wait for the next 3 or 4 years for the book. I've gone through Inspirational Book Writers, which is an incredible organization to go through. If you want to write a book, have input, but they do all the background, and it's phenomenal, the support we get. So I came to them in July. Yes. After I'd rewritten the book, I went to them in July. It's now 2 months later, and the book will come out. So they will do the whole process in just over 3 months.
That's wonderful.
I know. They have a process of doing it over a period. They have open right in a week. They get together somewhere, either virtually or in a location, and they help you virtually write everything down. Well, I'd already came to them with a written book. And I'm finding that the art of writing is now coming forward. And this is really important in recognizing that, continuing very quickly from what we were saying before, we come into life and we follow a certain pathway. So I've had major changes in 10-year periods. And this is going into my next 10-year period. Because when I turned 50, 60, 70, now I've just turned 80, and things are completely changing. Normally it's every 7 years. With me, it's 10 at the moment. But with everything, there is the introductory to a change. We have to have an introduction to change. We've got to feel comfortable with that. And then we can change. So from here on, it is moving forward in both a clinical therapist. Yes. There's always been the counseling, which happens automatically, the reflexology, the understanding of the body, and more the understanding of how the emotions in the mind fit in with our heart. How does the heart feel? And the recognition of that spiritual heart, not the opening of the heart. So there are times when I've got to do zip.
Any final thoughts that you'd like to leave with the audience today? What would be one piece of advice that you would give to someone who is in the position where you were in the beginning, where you started to sense that there was something more? Where does that person go from there?
Trust. I found that I needed to learn to trust in myself. And what was needed at the time was support. Then I did not have the support. I eventually, yes, did have a group of like-minded spiritual souls around me, which I remained friends with for the last 30 years. And I continued to go to annual retreats. Well, actually, twice a year. And I've gone to different countries because you become like a soul family. So you have your birth family. You have your friends that you develop around you. Then you have your work colleagues.
Yeah.
You have your acquaintances. And then you have your spirit family, your soul family. And sometimes you meet somebody and you say, oh, I know you. You've never met them in your life before. Your soul knows you. Your heart knows them. So I would say to a person, If ever you're feeling that there is something explore it. The course that I'll be running next year, Susan, because I know it can't start in December, it's too close to Christmas and holidays. We'll be taking things forward. It will be based on the opening, with little forays into the gateway.
Mm-hmm.
But every chapter of the book, of the opening, there's 12 of them, will entail 1 week. So it will go over at least 4 months. And so the 2 free masterclasses is just stepping your toes into the water, understanding where is this taking us. And this will only take 2 minutes. So chapter 1 of the book is breaking free of our self-limiting beliefs. That'll be a whole week. Then we move on to overcoming the fear of change, then developing reality through relationships. That's when the soul starts emerging. We awaken creativity of another kind. Then, of course, the impact of energy on humanity and the universe. We go deeply into that, overcoming our physical obstacles. We move on to the role of karma in spiritual growth. That's a big one. Then lots of different practices on the path. Each week, there will be a new meditation. There will be some journaling. There will be practices. There will be a lot of practical techniques. Then we go into the cosmic laws, evolution. What have I left out? Conscious evolution. Conscious evolution is when we really start moving from the concept of repeating the past into overcoming those conflicts, overcoming everything, and saying we're a person of freedom who can then feel, speak for themselves without having to put on this mask. So I'm removing the mask, Susan. I'm coming out of hiding. I'm standing tall. I'm pretty short. And being who I am. So if anybody wants to chat to me, anybody wants to communicate, number one, would you put my email address on the show notes?
Yes.
Please, welcome to contact me at any time. I am available for a chat, a one-on-one, to discuss the situation, to make somebody feel it's okay to let go. It's okay to discover something new in yourself. Let this go. You don't have to be the punching ball all the time. You see what I'm doing?
Yes.
Grow your wings. Fly, my
Mm.
girl. Grow your wings and fly.
Yes, I love it. Misha, I love it. So I think on that note, that should be the finale, right? So I will be putting, and I'll ask you to please send all the information to your free master classes, the one that's coming out later after that. Give me all of that information. It will go in the show notes. I will put your email address in the show notes. So if anyone wants to contact you. And this was a wonderful episode, Misha. I'm so happy that we connected. And you mentioned at one point that sometimes you meet someone and you feel like you have that soul connection to them. And when I was listening to your podcast episodes, a couple of episodes that I listened to when I was walking, I felt that. I said, there's something about Misha. And I don't really know how we connected on Facebook, how, like, if we were in a group together or however we got connected. It was meant to be that we got connected. And I just feel like you are a soul sister to me because you understand, because I feel a lot of what you're saying, right? You know, and not everyone that you know who is in your circle understands, and they sort of look at you a little like, okay. So to connect with someone like you is a true blessing to me. That's the way I feel.
Look, it was my pleasure. And Susan, we connected through the podcasting group because I also had my own podcast. Yes. The Integrated Way with Misha.
Yes,
That's my journey before I moved off into writing. So, yes.
You have to, by the way, pick up podcasting again, because between your accent and the message, it's just soothing on every level. It really is. It just makes me feel calmer and connected, and it's just a pleasure to listen to you speak. It really is.
Thanks ever so much, Susan. I speak from my heart now. And this for me is the only way forward, is to speak truth, listen to my heart, and speak from there. So on that note, I will definitely give all your audience or your listeners the information to contact me on all levels. My website needs updating. I need technical help there, but I won't go into that. So it will be in the show notes. And I want to thank you ever so much indeed for this beautiful conversation and for having me on your podcast.
It was my pleasure, Misha. Thank you so much. Thank you. And again, my listeners, I will put all of Misha's information in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining and for listening in. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel, so this way you will be up on the latest episodes. And until the next time, be well, stay happy, and bye for now.